Sober dating might sound intimidating, but I'm here to tell y'all that it's actually pretty fun. When I started my sober journey, one of the biggest fears that I had was around dating and feeling accepted by other people. But I have learned really quickly that meeting people when you're sober is actually better than you think. I had this limiting belief that people were going to view me as being boring or uninteresting, and that it was just straight up going to be hard for me to meet people. But that turned out to be one of the biggest myths that I had to unlearn. My name is Ladette, and in today's video, I'm going to share what I've learned about sober dating. And that includes the good, the awkward, and the beautiful parts of getting to know someone and make connections when alcohol isn't in the picture. So whether you're sober curious or you're already living an alcohol-free life, today's video is going to be for you. So I'm going to share 5 main things that I've learned about sober dating. This isn't everything by any means, but just some of the main things that have come for me that have been the most relevant. So let's start with the first one, being that straight up, y'all, it might be awkward at first, and that's okay. I think the level of awkwardness definitely depends on how much of a drinker you were. I know I can say for myself that drinking was involved every weekend. Like, I was that girl that whether I was going out or I was at home, drinking was in the mix somehow, some way. And so for me, it was kind of a big deal when I quit alcohol because it meant that I couldn't use it as a crutch and that I kind of had to figure out what that meant for the relationships that I had and how I would connect with other people moving forward. Alcohol is something that has just always been in the mix. It definitely was an adjustment for me, especially when it came to dating. Because at the time, if I was going out to bars with my friends or if I was on dating apps, like that was mainly the way that I would meet other guys. That was the way that I would form these connections. And so a lot of times, first dates would just involve alcohol in one way or another. It became something for me that I had to quickly adjust to because it meant that, okay, if I am gonna still go on dates, if I still want to explore meeting new people, I'm gonna have to be okay with being around alcohol, but I'm also gonna have to be okay with me not drinking alcohol. It just meant that I had to be okay with being myself because I'm not gonna lie, when I would go on dates, I would be really nervous, especially if it was with someone I've never met before. And the moment leading up to the date, because I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. It's like there's a lot of nervousness and anxiousness until you get to the date. But then if drinking is in the mix, it helps suppress the nerves and the anxiousness. And then it's like, okay, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling loose. I'm feeling fun. Meanwhile, it's like, for me at least, I felt like I was never fully being myself. And so quitting alcohol meant that it was going to be a little bit awkward for me because it meant that instead of using alcohol as a crutch to let loose and have fun, it meant that I had to learn how to sit there and be present and be myself and be confident in who I was as a sober person. But honestly, the more dates that I went on, the longer I stayed sober, the more that I kind of figured out how to make conversation, how to get to know someone when alcohol wasn't in the mix. And it just became something that I actually really started to enjoy doing, and it stopped being awkward. That's all that I want to say is, yeah, it might be awkward at first, but it's not like that every time. So the second thing I learned, which is one of my favorites, is that sober dating actually helped me build my confidence. The type of confidence where you really are grounded in yourself. Because when I was a drinker, y'all, I thought alcohol made me confident, but that's not real confidence. That feeling of losing your inhibition and not caring what anyone thinks and being bold and saying whatever and doing whatever when you're drinking, at least for me, that was never true confidence. That was confidence masked as insecurity, honestly. And being a non-drinker gave me like permission to not only show up as who I truly am, but I almost feel like it gave the circumstance or even the date that potential for that person to accept me for who I am, you know? And that's something that I really cared and valued, was like, because I would be quite honest with people that I went on dates with, like, hey, I don't drink, I'm not a drinker, but I don't mind if you drink. Like, I can still handle being around alcohol. I don't mind going to a nice dinner and that person having a drink. I don't mind that at all. And so it just became a really nice opportunity to see who from the get-go was going to accept me for me. And if they weren't going to accept me or if they weren't vibing with me as a non-drinker, it made it so much easier for me to walk away. Because that's not something that I want in my life, right? Someone who's not going to be supportive, especially right off the bat, like that's a red flag. And so being able to go on these dates sober and not have to drink alcohol and it not having to be a big deal, it was really nice. It was just such a nice confidence booster because every time it just showed me that I can show up as my authentic self and that nothing can ever go wrong. when you're being your authentic self. The third thing that I've learned about sober dating is it's actually a really cool way to see a person for who they truly are. So when you go on a date, right, the next time you're on a date and you're not drinking alcohol, I want you to just pay attention to how that person is. And this is not by any means looking down at people. It's not judging other people. It's just really interesting to see when you're clear-minded and you haven't had a drink and you're just totally present to see how other people are, because people are always showing their true colors one way or another. And I personally believe that in the beginning, when you are dating, like it's really important to pay attention to how that person is. And what better way can you pay attention than being sober? Literally, I went on dates where it was so easy to tell from the get-go, oh, it's not going to work with this person. Me being able to just really pay attention, because when I would drink and I would go on these dates, the more that I would get drunk, the more that I would get loud, the more that I would just ignore red flags. The more drunk that I became or the more tipsy I was, it's like there's that level of carelessness that you feel when you're drinking. And so for me, I care about being as present as possible on dates because I'm not playing around. Like, I want to get to know your values. I want to know what you care about. I want to know what type of lifestyle you live. I want to know what your goals are. And sometimes I think it's hard to have those deep, meaningful conversations when drinking is involved. It's not to say that you can't have them, but I just feel like in the beginning, when you're getting to know someone, it really is important to make sure that you are paying attention to what that person is telling you and to the actions that they're showing you of who they are. And so sober dating has just been such a nice benefit because it's allowed me to really be present and in the moment of those conversations to help me determine and feel like, is this person going to be a right match? Are we connecting on that level that I want to connect on? The fourth thing that I've learned about sober dating, which I love, is that you realize how much fun you can have without alcohol. This has been just so meaningful to me because alcohol was such a big part of my life. Like I said, on the weekends, it was always involved one way or another. When I would go on dates, it was always a part of the picture. Vacations, trips, birthdays, it was just such a big part of my life. And I had this limiting belief that life was going to be dim, that for some reason, my life was just going to be different. And I knew that it would be different in good ways, but I kind of thought that it would be different in bad ways too. I was just expecting that I wasn't going to have as much fun, that, like I said, people might think that I'm boring, that men might think I'm uninteresting because I'm not a drinker anymore. And it has been so nice to prove myself wrong, specifically with this particular thing. Life is so much better. I have way more fun now. It's crazy because it's like I can take trips and not drink alcohol. I can take solo trips by myself and not even think about it. I can go out with my friends. I can go to concerts. I'm just like, I'm still having the time of my life. And specifically with dating, I've still had so much fun. I went on dates with people who, yeah, it didn't work out, but the date was still fun. We did fun activities together, hiking, just going for walks in the city. Like, there's just so many things you can do with someone that does not involve drinking. And so if you're someone who's sober curious or you've just started your alcohol-free life and you're early in your journey, whatever the case is, just know that building connections with other people, it's not about the alcohol. It's more about the experience. It's about the moment. It's about the conversations that you're having. And just because alcohol isn't in the picture doesn't mean that you can't form those deep bonds and that you can't have fun and that you can't live your life. Like, I'm telling y'all, I have found that my life has gotten so much better and I'm having so much more fun because I'm able to really be present and be in the moment and really just embrace my life for what it is and remember the experiences that I have. I'm not hungover. I'm not forgetful of something I said or I did. It has just been hands down one of the best things. So don't feel like just because you're sober or that you don't want to drink alcohol that people are going to perceive you some type of way. If they do, that's more of a reflection on their own relationship with alcohol and it has nothing to do with you. And so if you're specifically wanting to go on dates and not drink alcohol, if you're wanting to explore with sober dating, go for it. And if you're worried that the person that you want to go on a date with is going to back down or change their mind because like, oh, you don't want to drink, I don't want to go on a date with you, then ask yourself, is that really the type of person that you want to potentially be with? For me, that answer is no. And in fact, I kind of liked telling people early on in the beginning that I wasn't drinking I don't do it anymore, but, like, I did in the beginning and I liked it because it allowed me to see from the beginning, what's their reaction gonna be? Because if they're gonna be judgmental off the bat, I don't want it. If they're gonna try to make me feel bad, I don't want it. If they're gonna try to make a joke of me not wanting to drink, I don't want it, okay? But now I found that I don't really care to explain myself or tell people I'm not drinking, but I do think that it doesn't matter whether you wanna explain yourself or not, it's totally up to you. I liked it in the beginning because it was just nice to assess and gauge how people's reactions were gonna be. Which actually leads me into the fifth thing that I learned when it comes to sober dating, which is how people react tells you a lot. I mean, it really does. That's something to pay attention to. Whether you wanna tell people in the beginning or not, it's totally up to you because, again, you don't have to explain yourself. But I really do think it's important to pay attention when you do choose to share that information, when you do choose to tell others, hey, I'm not drinking, or hey, I want to go on a date that doesn't involve alcohol. Their reaction really says a lot. If it's someone who's like, oh, yeah, totally, like, I'm down, we can do whatever, that sounds great. Okay, that's a green flag because it's showing you that they're open to a life without alcohol. They don't have to necessarily give up alcohol unless that's something that's of value to you. But I think that because everyone's relationship with alcohol is different, that for me at least, I didn't feel like I needed to be with someone who was totally sober. I just wanted to be with someone who had a healthy relationship with alcohol. And so if you're talking to someone and you suggest a date that doesn't involve drinking and they're open to it, I do think that's a green flag because off the bat, it just shows that they're going to be open to doing things with you in a relationship that doesn't surround drinking alcohol. That was a value for me, and it was really nice to see how people reacted early on. Granted, like, mostly the reactions I got were positive when I would share it with people. There were a couple people who drinking was just too important to them to want to do things without it. And so for me, that just was always like, no, that didn't feel good because I know I don't want to drink alcohol. I know that it's not for me. And so I want to at least be with someone who can go on a date with me and we can actually like enjoy the date without a buzz. I don't mind if my man drinks here and there. I really don't mind if it's at home, that type of thing. But my thing is, I don't want to be with someone whose life revolves around alcohol. And that's just my value. That's just me. Everyone's different. Everyone's preference is different. And so you just have to honor what's important to you. And that's what I've learned in this process. And that wraps up our video for today. Those are just some of the things that I've learned about sober dating that I thought would be helpful to share with anyone who's just starting their sober dating journey. Maybe you've been sober curious for a while. Maybe you've been alcohol free for a while and sober dating is just something that you haven't explored yet. And so I just thought it would be helpful to share some of what I've experienced. And I just want to say that it's really not as scary as it seems. Let me know in the comments what you guys resonated with most today. And if you've ever gone on a sober date, how did it go? What were some things that helped you navigate that experience? I would love it for this to be a place where we can all just share tips and tricks with each other and just be that support for one another. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more sober content. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.